Well, if you love landscape photography, or probably more to the point, if you love photography as art, photographs so good, so vivid, so compelling that you don't just want to see them in an album or in a book, you want to see them up on the wall as part of your interior decorating, then you will have heard of Ken Duncan, or may even have some of his more famed works up on your wall. Ken Duncan has pretty much transformed the world of photographic art in Australia and around the world in the last 30 years or so. He's a busy man, but he's going to be guest speaker next week at Toowoomba Regional Council's Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. But at the moment, he's just hopped off a plane, I believe, from Norway. But he has agreed to have a chat, which I'm delighted about. Ken Duncan, good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, good morning, mate. Thanks for the big wrap.
Such a privilege to have a chat to you this morning. Was it Norway that you've just come back from?
Yeah, just came back from Svalbard. Yeah, so we're up, rather cool.
Yes.
We were chasing polar bears and walruses in a ship, and so it was quite fun. Yeah.
How fantastic. Actually, that's probably a good point to start. I mean, a trip like that, you have taken photographs all over the world in the last 30 years or so, but tell me how a trip like that comes about. How far ahead do you plan and start thinking about, in a particular country, I want to photograph this, and I'm going to need that, and all of the rest of the things that need to happen to make it happen?
Well, it just goes, you can plan as much as you like, but it's COVID really knocks all those plans out of the water, doesn't it?
Yes, it did, yes.
So this one was planned well and truly before there, and so it's an amazing place where you can experience polar bears, and we wanted to try it, when there'd be snow and a lot of cold weather around, and so it was just great to be able to get on a plane and finally get there, and they're not necessarily lots of bears, but when you do find them, you can get great encounters. So we had those boats, that we chased them in, inflatable boats that we would chase them in or try and find them. And we found a couple that really came very close and was actually sort of running towards us. And so it was quite exhilarating. Yeah.
Good. But on a trip like that, you're obviously, as you've just alluded to there, you're not travelling by yourself. You're relying on I would imagine, local guides who can, so all of that has to be teed up. Do you just have people in every country that you use when you travel to that country, or?
Usually what I do is I plan, I do a lot of research and see who is, someone who really knows what they're doing over there. It's always good to go out with people who have the experience, especially in cold weather, climates like that, because, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble very quickly if you don't watch out. And, so that's who I knew this person. I'd been on other trips with them, and so it was great, and we got some amazing encounters with walruses and sea lions and Arctic foxes. So it was just such a privilege to be out in the beauty of nature, and it's like Svalbard. It's just like a huge desert, except it's a very white desert and a very cold desert. And I just come from actually the red centre prior to that, so it was from red to white. So it was quite a contrast. Yeah.
Good. Is it hard to? I mean, your work. And obviously you've taken a lot of different, I guess, not so much styles of photographs, but in a lot of different places you've photographed over the years. But is it a challenge, this may seem like an odd question, but is it a challenge to make photographs in such a stark white environment, to make them pop in that sort of Ken Duncan style when you haven't got the greens and the reds and the vivid colours to tap into?
I really think great photos are gifts given to us by God, So for me, I consider myself an average photographer with a great God, and that's not false humility. It's waiting for that moment, and that's what most people, they're so in control, they're not waiting for that moment. So and often that moment comes at the last minute. Like one of the best shots I got was right on the last shoot. we'd got some other shots, but it wasn't the shot that I really was after. And then all of a sudden on the last morning, we went out and we had this polar bear come down and really interact with us down right on the shoreline. And he came charging right at us, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And you could see the snow going up as he's charging, and he was chasing reindeer, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And so to get a shot, I think shots are gifts given to us if we're just patient enough to wait. And then my job is to just try and make sure I get it sharp and, get it, compose it as best as I can. And to me, I'm really just about bringing back the beauty of creation to people because, it's a really stressful world we live in. There's a lot of things going on, and hopefully the photos can just remind us that there's always a bigger picture going on, no matter what's happening in our life, So, and I think nature does that to us. It makes us realise there's hope.
And Ken, on a trip like that, do you know, even before you get back to your hotel room, or I'm not sure at what stage you have a really good look at the shots? I would imagine you probably can't wait till you get back home. You no longer have to now. Wait and go and develop them in your own dark room. But do you know, even before you have a proper look on a larger screen at the shots, that you have nailed it, that somewhere in there is the shot that you wanted?
Look, every shot's good until you check it. It's like, and it's sometimes funny because on a trip I mainly just check for sharpness just to make sure I'm not having any focus issues, and I just check, and that's all I do because it's a waste of time doing a lot of work on just your laptop because you need to make sure the colour's actually correct because you're shooting in RAW. Yep. Formats. So I just got back and I couldn't sleep last night much because I'm on a different time zone. So I've just been sitting there on my computer looking and I'm really happy with some of the results. So
that's brilliant. That's great. I want to. Ken, if you've just come in, by the way, it's 8 to 10. My name's David Eiler. For having a chat with Ken Duncan this morning. Ken, I've just watched it's a beautifully shot introduction video on your website, and from the way you speak and your choice of language in that video, it's only a short video, I'm now convinced that photography is not really a creative pursuit or a vocation at all. It's actually a form of meditation. Is that the way you see it sometimes? Because that's the way you've described it really in that video.
Oh, look, I think it really is. Like a lot of people like fishing, and I think sometimes fishermen, well, they do like to catch a good fish, just like I think photographers like to get a good photo. But I think it's more getting time to get away, get out there, and just allow nature to sort of minister to you, however you perceive that, And for me, I've been doing this for about 45 years. I love my work. It's my hobby's my job, and it's never been about making money. It's been more about having a mission where hopefully I can bring the beauty of creation back to people, to hopefully bring a bit of peace into their homes or their lives. We just did a hospital down in Melbourne, which we're very excited about because when people are in hospitals, often they're facing some pretty heavy stuff. So it's good to have some beauty of nature in a place like that because then people can look at it and go, whatever's happening in my body right now, I've got to get back out there and go and see that thing for myself.
Isn't that great? Yeah. And do you get that feedback directly? I would imagine at exhibitions and even at things where you perhaps unveil or a collection that you've given to a hospital. Do you get that feedback directly from people along those lines?
Yes, look, we did our local hospital and it was just phenomenal, the responses we got, and we still get them all the time. People just saying, look, I was in here, I was really battling and I saw that picture and I was just determined. I thought, I'm going to get out of here. I want to go and see that place. And we actually had another poster we did, which I put out called, and it was a beautiful shot of Queensland Beach up in Whitehaven, and it said, never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. And so many people contacted us and said, I saw that poster and I determined I'm going to go and start travelling. And they told me how that poster helped inspire them to get out of the money-making train and deciding to go off and experience life and go adventuring. So
isn't that great? Gee,
yeah, so it was good.
who knew one click of a camera could be so powerful?
Oh, well, I think nature. The trouble is with us, we get so busy and we're so bombarded by news and things like that we sometimes stop, and don't take the time to stop and file all the stuff that's coming at us. And that's what, when you're out in nature, that's what I think with fishermen, that when they're out fishing, it gives them a chance to clear their mind. Or when you're out doing landscape photography, it helps you clear your mind too. And I think if you think you're in control, like we're travelling on a planet of 108,000 kilometres per hour hurtling through space. And the very thought of being in control, we're not really, but the thing is you really need someone who knows how to drive well, to drive a planet at that speed. So
yes.
There's definitely something happening bigger than us.
That's a very good point. Well put. You're credited by many, and you may dismiss this, but as sort of being the person who really took photography and made it into an art form or something that people wanted to actually hang on their walls. Was there a specific way or technique that you have managed to do that, or was it just marketing? I mean, how did you achieve that look or that look of your photographs that's made you so famous?
But I really think the key is just capturing the beauty of creation, and it's a magical moment. It's a decisive moment, and that's the key. Just trying to humble yourself out there, and then just bring it back, and then present it to the highest standards. So that, and people. They relate to quality. It's not about trying to sell the emperor's clothes or marketing, because people aren't, in time they sort of wake up to all of that. It's got to be something that really resonates with people. So my key is just to try and capture those images, then present them well, and then hopefully it will touch the people. And that's why I think that's the best test. If your story, because photography is about telling stories. So if your story is good enough, it will resonate with people, and they may want to get that and put it in their home.